Grab your Bibles. We're going to jump into the Word today. We've been in a series on Mark chapter 10. Well, we've been in a series on risk takers. Today we're going to be in Mark chapter 10. But we've been in a series on risk takers. We talked about Gideon, we talked about Daniel, we talked about the three Hebrew children, we talked about Noah. We've talked about a lot of different characters in the Bible that took risk and that were kind of heroes of the Bible, stories that really stand out of people that did some amazing things. Today we're going to talk in Mark chapter 10. We're going to talk about a man named Bartimaeus, and he was a blind man, and we're going to go through the story of how he was not only healed, but what took place in his life. So here's the word that we're going to share today in Mark chapter 10, starting in verse 46. All right? It says, "Then they reached Jericho, and as Jesus and his disciples left town, a large crowd followed him." You know, when Mark says a large crowd, there's times where there's numbers to it, like there was 1,000, 5,000 people feeding the 5,000. A large crowd, let me tell you, there was a lot of people that followed Jesus. A lot of people. So this large crowd followed him. A blind beggar named Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, was sitting beside the road. I'm going to just walk through this verse by verse. So let's stay on this verse here. Bartimaeus is a blind beggar. Back in the day, back in this time, if you were blind or had any type of disease, you were outcast. You hung out by the gate, the city gate. You were kind of insignificant, so to speak, in some ways, in the eyes of people. You were kind of an outcast. That's why he is begging, because he needs money. He's depending on people to take care of him, because he can't just go do what everybody else can do. So he's on the side, he's begging, he's asking people for money. That's what he did. It wasn't just a one-time thing. He was known as the blind beggar. And in this, Luke writes about it, and Matthew writes about it. Mark is the only one that mentions his name being Bartimaeus. I looked up what his name means, because a lot of times in Scripture, you can look at people's names and it kind of tells you a little bit about them. Remember when Jesus said to Peter, "Your name means rock. And upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail." And there's different meanings that come with different names. I looked up his name. Bartimaeus means son of Timaeus. That's what his name means. No great, like, awesome warrior, whatever. Doesn't mean that. It just means son of Timaeus. So think about this. He already, even name-wise, he's not given a name of real significance. He's just known as somebody's son. That's what his name means. Timaeus, when you look that name up, it means highly, hold on, I'll tell you. Highly prized. That's what it means. So here's Bartimaeus. He's the son of someone highly prized. But his name is just, I'm his son. I'm not saying that he did, but I can tell you that just in times of life, we can look at ourselves and we can all of a sudden feel like we're just really not valuable. We're really not significant. So if we were to get really real with each other today, have you ever felt insignificant? Have you ever felt that you just weren't valuable? Anybody ever felt that way? Yeah. That's not a good feeling. And that's what Bartimaeus, that's kind of how his story starts. He's insignificant to others. He's not really valuable to others. He's just put out, and everybody's doing their thing, and he's there just begging, hoping somebody will see him and that somebody will help him. And that's how this passage starts. Now, what I found interesting in some of the studying and different things I've listened to and read this past week or so about this story is in Mark chapter 10, there's this place of significance and value that Bartimaeus is not feeling right now. in the natural. And I find that if you go up in chapter 10, let's go up to verse 35 and think about how Jesus is using this story, and that part of this story about significance and value comes right after this story here where James and John, the son of Zebedee, came over and spoke to him saying, "Teacher," they said, "we want you to do us a favor." "What is your request?" Jesus asked. They replied, "We want to sit on your glorious throne." We want to feel valuable. We want to feel significant. Can we sit with you? That's what he's saying. We want to sit in places of honor next to you, and on your right hand, the other on your left. We want to be those people. But Jesus said, "You don't know what you're asking. Are you able to drink from the bitter cup of suffering I'm about to drink? Or are you able to be baptized with the baptism of suffering I must be baptized with?" So Jesus is saying right away, listen, you think being at the top, you think having this value, and you think coming and being with me at the top, listen, it's not all about you being way up here, because listen, there's a price that you pay up here. There's a price that you pay. There's challenges you face. There's difficulties you face. Jesus is getting ready to go to the cross. That's where he's headed for this story. He's heading to die. And these disciples are like, "Well, hook us up. Let us be up there with you. And we can feel valuable, and we can feel important, and we can feel significant." And you know what that is? You know what the word there is? We. Everybody always wants the best for them. When can we just stop worrying about what we have to give, or what we know, or what we want, and start looking at other people? So that's the thing. So Jesus is saying, listen, you don't even know what you're asking, because it cost you up here. It cost you. And then they said, "Oh yes," they replied, "we're able." Then Jesus said, "You will indeed drink from my bitter cup and be baptized with the baptism of suffering." Let's keep going. "But I have no right to say who will sit on my right or my left. God's prepared those places for the ones he's chosen." When the other 10 disciples heard what James and John asked, they were indignant. Jesus called them together and said, "You know that the rulers in the world lord it over their people, and officials flaunt their authority over those under them. But among you, it'll be different." And this is what he says. You want to be a leader? Be a servant. "Whoever wants to be the first among you must be the slave of everyone else. For even the Son of Man came not to serve, but to serve others, and give his life as a ransom for many." So here's what Jesus is saying. These disciples, James and John, are looking for value and significance. To be seen, to be looked at as like, yeah, we're right there with Jesus. And Jesus, I think, recognizes that. But Jesus helps all of them to learn. Your value and significance isn't in what you do or what position you have. Because he's saying, if you want to be valuable, be humble. You want to be valuable, serve. Listen, it's so, I see it all the time. I'm just going to tell you, for me, there was one time we were doing something here, and if you've been to this church long, you know this about me. But I should be the chief servant here. If I'm leading, then I'm serving. And we're sitting here and we talk about things sometimes where we're moving tables, we're moving chairs, we're doing all this stuff. And there was one time when I was moving a chair and I was moving a table. We had a bunch of tables to bring in because we were going to be having food. It was after service. I'm bringing in a table, and somebody stops me and says, "Oh no, Pastor, I'll carry the table." And I know their heart was good. Like you don't. And I remember that feeling of, I don't ever, this was for me. There's nothing wrong with someone offering. You could offer to carry anybody's table. That's a great thing. So it wasn't the fact that it was that, but it was something in me that said, I never want to get to the point that I can't carry a table. I don't want to get to the point that I can't go clean a bathroom. Listen, my position is not a position where I can't do that and everybody who serves me. That's not what pastoring is about. That's not what leading is about. What leading is about is you're down there serving. So don't come to me wanting to do all this stuff if you're not serving. Because serving is where it begins. Serve. Help. So Jesus is saying, this is what you need to know. Don't look at, it's not about where you are, or who you're with, or what you do. So this comes right back into Bartimaeus, where Bartimaeus, because he's an outcast and he's sad, there's people are saying he's not significant. And you're going to see that they find his significance isn't based on what people are basing it on. So he has to kind of move through this. So his desire to find out where his value comes from starts in verse 47. Put up verse 47 for me. When Bartimaeus heard, now I say heard because listen, when you're blind, you have to depend on your other senses. So he didn't see Jesus, but he heard. He was listening intently because as a blind beggar, he's on the side. He's got to know when people are around so he knows to ask them for money. So he's used to being sensitive to his hearing as a blind beggar. So he's sensitive. He hears, and this is what he hears. He said he hears that Jesus, Jesus of Nazareth, was nearby. He heard that. So he started shouting. And he said, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Have mercy on me. But listen, here's what he shouts. Jesus. Jesus, you look at it, it's the Son of God. The incarnate Son of God in the flesh. And he says, Son of David. Now listen, when you read this in other passages, it says that people said Jesus of Nazareth is passing by. But he didn't call out to Jesus of Nazareth. He didn't say, Jesus of Nazareth, have mercy on me. He went straight to Jesus, Son of David. Why is that important? Do we have Matthew 1:1? Do you have that? This is a record of the ancestors of Jesus, the Messiah, a descendant of David. Listen to what I'm saying right here. He called out on the Son of David because that's the Messiah. Because Jesus came from the lineage of David that was prophesied about that he would be the Messiah. He was the Savior of the world. He was the one who was going to change everything for all of us. That's who he is. And Bartimaeus got it. He's like, listen, I don't need just a man from Nazareth. I don't just need a man from Nazareth to give me some money and to help me out. I need the Messiah. I need the chosen one. I need Jesus, the Son of God, to step in and see me. So not just to see me, and so I feel significant. And I get my value from him. That's what he's seeking. And so he cries out and he lets it go. He shouted. Why did he shout? Maybe in desperation, but maybe because there's a whole lot of people there. Listen, I'm not a big shouter. I don't like being around, you ever go to a football game and the guy next to you is just the loudest every play? Rah! You're like, dude, they can't hear you anyway. You can say, good play, or you can say, good play. Either way, nobody hears you. That's just for you. You're the only one. That's a good play. You feel that way, but you ain't got to scream all day. But he's screaming, he's shouting, Jesus, the Messiah, have mercy. Mercy means to help someone who's afflicted. Mercy sometimes means not getting what you deserve. And in the natural, he deserved to be an outcast. He deserved to be on the out because that was the custom of the day. That was the culture. But he was like, Jesus, will you not see me that way? Will you have mercy on me and not give me what culture says I should have. That's what he cried out for. And this is what I love, verse 48. The crowd is like, here's the crowd, right? And everybody's probably excited. A crowd followed Jesus. So people were all into Jesus. Even though they weren't all serving him. But they were just into like, hey, it's Jesus. Jesus would have had a lot of followers on Facebook. He would have. He'd have a lot of Instagram. He'd have all these people following him. Not living for him, but connecting to him. So here's the thing. He's doing all this, and the people are like, dude, be quiet. Stop yelling. That's what he said. Many of the people, not just one person. See, it's one thing. There's always that one person that wants you to be quiet. Listen, a lot of people are saying, look, dude, be quiet. And he can't see who's yelling at him. He can't see. But these people are yelling at him. And here's what it says in the verse. So he shouted louder. Now, some people think he was like, oh, you tell me to be quiet? Watch me get louder. I don't think that was his attitude. I don't think he had an attitude against them. Like, oh, you telling me to stop? I'm going to yell louder right in your face. Like, that's not what he was doing. You know why he was yelling louder? Because the crowd's now making noise. So if he's going to hear Jesus, if he's got to get to Jesus, now he's got to be the louder than the people yelling at him. If I was to talk right now, I could talk at this voice. If everyone starts talking and I got to get your attention, now I got to be louder than all of you. So the crowd's yelling at him, so now he's yelling louder. He is bound and determined to get connected with the Messiah. He's determined. And that's what he goes for. Even though those people that he's going against was the people he's dependent on to help him. Because he's begging for money every day. The last people you want to make mad are the people you're hoping will help you. I'm just going to say this. If you want people to help you, don't make them mad. That's common sense. That's an extra nugget for you. You just take that, tweet that, you live on it. Stop making people mad and they'll help you. We put so much significance in people. And he was to the point where he was like, you know what? Y'all haven't been able to help me. Yeah, you could do a little bit. You can throw some coins in my hand. But I don't matter to y'all. So why would I keep doing everything I can to please the people that really I don't matter to? Why don't I just decide that, even if it costs me some of y'all's change and some of the money that y'all have given me, I think I'm just going to go ahead and go after the Messiah. And if it means I lose y'all, then it means I lose y'all. But I don't matter to y'all. But I'm pretty sure I matter to him. And he called out to him. And then this is the beautiful, beautiful picture here. Let's go to the next verse. Jesus heard him. Jesus heard him. Listen, I'm telling you, God is so in tune to hear the cries of people, their hearts. Because there was a lot of people out there. And Jesus heard the one. He responded to the one, not to the crowd. I guarantee you there were more people calling him than just that blind guy. Some might have wanted an autograph. Jesus, son, my sandal. I'm sure people wanted, James and John wanted to be buddies with him, right? You think everybody else was like, wouldn't it be cool, man? They didn't have any social media. They didn't have phones. They're probably just writing in the sand. I was with Jesus. Why? Because that was people were gravitated to him. But of all the voices, of all the people talking, of all the people yelling, of all the people, Jesus heard this guy who said, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. See me. That's what I think he was saying. See me. You ever felt that way? Like, God, will you just, can someone see me? Have you ever been in front of a lot of people but still didn't feel seen? Yeah, we all have. You feel like you're with people but you don't fit. People judge you, people criticize you, or people just act like you're not even there. There's been times I've been places and I'm sitting there, it's like, I'm not sure why I went. They invited me to come, but I don't know why they invited me. No one talked to me. I just sat. Like, if I'm going to sit, let me sit at a table with food. Let me sit in front of a ball game. If I'm just going to sit, I'd rather sit somewhere else than by myself where no one sees me and no one notices me. We've all been in places like that. But Jesus heard him and he stopped. And he said, tell him to come here. You know what that tells me? That I think blind Bartimaeus was a ways away. Because if blind Bartimaeus was right there, he'd be like, come here, man. He would have told him, hey, you talking to me, the one who's calling out, come here. He was like, tell him to come. In other words, get the message to him. I want to see him. So they do. So they call the blind man. Listen, this is the same crowd that told him to shut up. And now they're saying, cheer up. What in the world? It does. It says they said, cheer up. He's calling you. Cheer up. Come on. Now they're going to take him. They go from, shut up, man. Hey, cheer up, buddy. Come on. Like, they totally changed their whole attitude. That's how people are, y'all. Listen, people are for you one minute, against you the next, for you the other one, against you the next. You can't count on people 100% to be there with you. They change. They change according to what it looks like. Jesus said, come, so I'm going to come. Hey, because Jesus is saying, now we're going to be spiritual because Jesus is watching us. Listen, Jesus heard them tell him to shut up. But all of a sudden, they're like, cheer up, come on. Let's take you to Jesus. So they take him to Jesus. Jesus asked this in the next verse. He says, when he says in verse 40, verse 50. He says, what do you want me to do for you? This is the same question, similar, that he asked James and John. What do you want? James and John wanted to be seen and be significant and be all this. And here's what he says. He says, with them, he says, what do you want? With this blind beggar, he says, what do you want me to do for you? Not just what do you want me to do for you? In other words, because some things you want, you can't get on your own. What do you need me to do? And he said this. He didn't ask for money, which is why he was begging. He didn't ask for those people that were yelling at him. He didn't say, hey man, can you take care of these people? He told me to shut up. He told me to be quiet. She did. He did. Of course, he doesn't know who because he can't see. He's like, someone over here was telling me to be quiet, and someone over here was telling me to be quiet. Will you just get them for that? He didn't do any of that. You know what he said? Simply, he said this. He said, Jesus, Messiah, I just want to see. You know why? Because everything that he was struggling with, everything he was looking for, his lack of significance, everything was because he couldn't see. Money wasn't his problem. People wasn't his problem. He couldn't see. But I think there was something a little deeper to that I want to see. I think he wanted to see his significance. I think he wanted to see he's valuable. I think he wanted to physically see too. But I think it's deeper than just sight. Because here's what happens. Well, let me tell you this. He says, when he says, what do you want? He says, my rabbi. You know what that means? My Lord, my master. The only other place this is used in Scripture, this word, is in John 20, when Mary turns around and sees Jesus for the first time after he was raised from the dead. The very first time she turned around, she's like, Rabbi, like Jesus, turned around and saw him. She saw Jesus and said, Rabbi. Now this guy says, Rabbi, and then he sees Jesus. Because when he did, he said, I want to see. And the next verse says, Jesus said, go, your faith has healed you. And instantly the man could see. You know what the first thing he saw was? Jesus. Yeah. He saw the Messiah. The source of his significance, the source of his value, the source of just everything about him that made him who he is. He saw Jesus. He no longer saw or heard of all the things that people were saying, that he had to be out. He couldn't be a part of things. He was out to his own. All of a sudden, one time of getting a hold and getting connected with the Messiah, he saw everything different than he had ever seen it before. You want to see things different? Connect to the Messiah. You'll see yourself different. You'll look in the mirror and think, guess what? I'm different. I see different. Because here's the thing. He said, I just want to see. And he saw Jesus. That's pretty cool to me. That is pretty cool to me. So here's the question that I'm going to ask for all of us. What do you want? What do you want to see? What do you need to see? I'm going to tell you what you need to see. You need to see Jesus. Because when you see Jesus, you know what you're going to see? You're going to see you. Because when you don't know who Jesus says you are, then you have a wrong view of you. Because of Jesus, I am the righteousness of God. Because of Jesus, I am more than a conqueror. Because of Jesus, I can do all things through him. Because of Jesus. The only way I can get that and recognize that is because I have seen Jesus. Spiritually, that I see him. I'm just telling you, you can have your sight and not see. How many of you have ever went in your house and you could not find your keys? And you looked and you looked and you looked and you looked and you looked. And then you said, I can't find my keys. And then your wife or husband or son or daughter says, those? Oh yeah, those. So many times we think we can't see it, but it's right in front of us. But we don't see it. You know how many believers live their life that way? Listen, I'm going to tell you, this was how my week was a few weeks ago. So busy, crazy with meetings. I'm on a Zoom call, but because I wasn't in the office, I didn't have my computer, so I have my phone in front of me. And I'm sitting there and I'm on this call and all these decisions are being made. And somebody asked me a question. They said, hey, did you get that email about whatever? And I said, hold on, let me check. And I was like, man, and I'm doing all this. And I was like, I cannot find my phone anywhere. I have to check my phone. And they're just listening. They're like, oh, because they don't know. And I'm looking everywhere. I'm like, I had it. I had it earlier. And I'm literally tearing this place apart. And finally, one of the ladies, she was like, hey, Scott. And I'm like, hold on, I'm trying to find my phone. They're like, listen, look at me. And I look at him, and they're like, you're looking at your phone. And I was like, that's my phone. That's my phone. It's right in front of my eyes, yet I couldn't see it. Listen, I'm telling you, some of you are not seeing how valuable and significant you are, but it's right in front of your face. Because Jesus makes you significant. Jesus makes you valuable. Jesus makes you important. Jesus sees you way better than you see yourself. Stop looking for value. It's right in front of your face. Get this book out. Start reading. This is who I am. I am who I am because I am says I am. God's name is I am. And he says it about me. So this is the thing. We got to start realizing we are so much more valuable. We are so much more significant than what we see and what we know. Listen, I have insecurities just like you do. But you know what helps you is when you start thinking, though I may feel this way, God says I'm this way. And I actually do. Let me tell you something. See these empty chairs? We've had families that aren't here anymore. If my value is in how big this church is, then I just lost value. But guess what? If my value is not in who's here, every one of y'all can roll out, and I'm still just as valuable as I was the day Jesus came into my life. I don't need you here for my value. I'm just here to receive more value from him, the same reason why you should be here. But it took me a long time to get to the point where I could say, it's okay. Still hurts, still leaves a mark. But there's something in me that I was like, I'm still significant. I'm still valuable. I'm still important. If God has a refrigerator, my picture's still on it. I am somebody. Because God created me. And God made me. And if you don't like me, I'm still valuable. And if you love me, it doesn't make me more valuable. And if you don't like me, it doesn't make me less valuable. If your value's in your job and you lose your job, there goes your value. If your value's in your money and you lose your money, there goes your value. If your value's in your friends and you lose your friends, there goes your value. If your value's in your material stuff and you lose it, there goes your value. But if your value is in Jesus, who says, I'll never leave you, I'll never forsake you, and Jesus says, I'm the same yesterday, today, and forever, guess what? No matter what happens, in the good times, you're valuable. In the bad times, you're valuable. When you do everything right, you're valuable. When you mess everything up, you're valuable. Because your value is in Jesus. Bow your heads with me.